not even gonna do it.
Do whatever you want to do. You know that.
I know. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us on Paranormal Brew. Um, and for November to Remember, which is for my guest tonight, Jason Hawes from Ghost Hunters, as if he needs an introduction. um, I say all the time that you are, I mean, like, I know the generation before us looked up to like the Holzers, Hans Holzer and John Zaffis and this and that. But for me, I feel like your generation of, if you will, quote unquote, the Godfather of the paranormal.
Jeez, well, that's a big label to put on me there. And I mean, even in the time you've talked to us, I think you've gotten to know that I'm just a down to earth guy, just trying to figure out what's truly going on, and willing to listen to all different views as long as they're not so far out there. It's ridiculous, but and I think that's what's always made us different, is that we've always been looking for the truth, whether it's paranormal or not.
Right. Yeah, and I remember early on. I think
All right, I got to give a shout out. Kenny Biddle's calling me old. That means I'm gonna have to go to Pennsylvania on Thanksgiving, kick his ass. I mean, it's like, come on.
Yeah, I mean, are you older than him?
I have no idea. I mean, he definitely looks 20 years older than me, though. That's what Rumble do to you. No.
He's so stressed. He's always so stressed out trying to prove everybody wrong.
You know what? No,
I say that to joke around with him.
No, I know, and I think Kenny's always. I mean, I have always respected Kenny. He's been a friend for, since honestly back when I first started Ghost Hunters, because we've always respected each other and the way we both look at it. I think people like Kenny, especially Kenny, there's a huge area in the field that could benefit from people who are willing to really be down that line and always looking for the explanation. I think it's great to have people like that.
I absolutely love. I've worked with people that didn't want Kenny around, and me and him have talked about this. I don't know why that is. I love having not just Kenny, but people like Kenny, but more so Kenny, because to me, he's like so smart and knows his stuff. I love having him with me on investigations.
And I would think the only people who really wouldn't want him around were people who were either didn't want their beliefs challenged or were, truly had something to hide. The fact of the matter is, I want everything I say challenged, because I want to be able to know if what I'm saying or what I'm doing is right, or if there's ways that I can improve on what I'm doing. And I think so. Again, having people like Kenny around, I think, is very beneficial to the field.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also have to give a shout out. This is Ajing Sardi. She's from Indonesia. Right now it's 2 a.m. there.
Hello. Thanks for staying up.
Yeah, and she watches, and so I just had to say hi to her really quick. So I got into the paranormal stuff late. I brought up, we talked before we came on, and I brought up your book, Ghost Files, about and how you got into it. Now, have you always had something, or did it? What?
No, I don't know. I don't think so. There was just, and honestly, I never really thought about the paranormal much. I was so focused on everything else. I was a guy who became a father really young. My wife was really young. I mean, we were still in high school when we had our oldest daughter now, Samantha. So we were always just focused on just looking ahead. And I never really thought much about the paranormal, not until I started having my own experiences. And that's kind of what took somebody who, I can't say I was a non-believer, but I can't say I was a believer, because it was just one of those things I never really thought about. And when I saw some stuff and had my own experiences, I tried to look and tried to read books and tried to look for any information on how these things were possible. And to be honest with you, all I found was garbage. I found things of people trying to sell memberships to view their pictures of orbs, which you can create by slapping a pillow in the dark and taking a picture, and all these other things. And it just seemed like there were so many charlatans in the field, people selling, to become a professional ghost hunter. How the hell do you become a professional ghost hunter? And how
Right.
does anybody actually sell something like that? So from there, it's just, I figured, you know what, I can't find any real information to help guide me, so I'm just gonna try to figure it out myself.
Yeah. So here you are. You guys are Roto-Rooter, right? And
Well,
then
actually, back then I was a technician. A lot of people. So I was in the computer programming field. My father was a computer programmer. I was in the computer programming field. I used to build computers, and then I got in the automotive industry, and I excelled more in their computer aspects and fixing and repairing and diagnosing computers. I did that for a long time until, geez, somewhere around 30. If I finally just said, I can't, this is so repetitive, it's just boring, there's no challenge. And my father-in-law said, why don't you try plumbing? And I go, plumbing? I don't want to be a plumber. And he said, yeah, ride me for a week or two and see what you think. And it was nice because every day was something different. I was problem solving. I was trying to figure it out. I could come in. I could break down somebody's wall to find a leak in the wall and fix it. And so it became, every day was different. I wasn't always going to the same place. I wasn't always doing the same job. And honestly, I loved it. And being a plumber in New England, I mean, we're never going back to the outhouse. It's recession free, and so it's one of those things where you'll always have a job.
now, but you also then when you got into the paranormal stuff, I'm sure you used some of your knowledge from all of that to be able to, when you went into private homes and stuff like that, and people are having issues. I mean, I'm sure you were able to apply some of that
Oh,
to.
absolutely, absolutely. Especially, coming from a family that I have people in the construction industry and everything else, and getting into the field back then. Of course, I mean, because you'd have people thinking that their lights flickering were the sign of a ghost, or their toilet, their fill valve kicking on at midnight is a sign that their dead Uncle Fred, who used to be a plumber, is trying to let them know that he's there, and it's not. So I mean, we found everything right down to mice and chipmunks living in people's walls, chewing on wiring that were
Oh
coming
wow.
out of them. So we even had people try to trick us, where we had a man at one point build a speaker into a wall and trying to tell us that a ghost was communicating, all because he was hoping to get on the show. I don't know if you remember show Sightings, but Sightings was one of the original like shows. They covered all the paranormal and stuff, and he wanted to get his house on that. So yeah, I mean, my background in electronics and things of that nature, I think, really came in handy to try to really disprove a lot of claims.
I also remember. Let me. So there's somebody said that I sound weird when I talk. I don't know.
You've sounded weird as long as I've known you. So
Which is probably why you love hanging out with me, right?
yeah, that's
um, but there was also another show I remember when you guys went out to. Me and you talked about it. Where there was a um a brewery, a restaurant where you guys
Moon River Brewery out in in California. No,
where you,
no, Blue Moon Brewery. Yeah, it was one. Yeah, I think it
yeah,
was Moon River. Yeah.
I remember you guys like found like the thing behind the mirror.
Built speakers. He had speakers in the ceilings. He had
Yeah.
images built into the mirror in the restroom. And they had chandeliers set up where chandeliers would start to move due to an air piston that they had in the ceiling. So yeah, I mean the list of people and that's the thing. Most of the times when you go to people's homes, people will misinterpret what's going on and think it's paranormal, and you're able to disprove it. Where some of these businesses, they're purposely trying to do things in hopes that it'll draw attention and bring people in. And you always need to take that into consideration any investigation you go on. Most of the time, homeowners, they're misunderstanding, and you're able to help them. But businesses, sometimes some of them have hidden agendas, and you always need to think outside the box when it comes out of that.
Well, that's got to be so frustrating, though. And how do you?
When you travel 3,500 miles across the country to when you could have stayed on the East Coast helping out families that needed you or something like that to go 3,500 miles. But you know what? So Sci-Fi didn't want to air that show, and we fought to have them air it because we wanted the world to see that there's people out there who'll do this to you as well. It's not always a ghost. It's not always paranormal. Sometimes there is trickery. There's somebody trying to fake stuff, and we felt it was important to show that. Now, of course, they had to edit a lot of the things I said to the individual when we were sitting across the table because I was pissed. I'm not going to lie, I was pissed, and so but yeah, I think it was great because it showed that you need to always keep your eyes open.
And
You need to think.
that is, I don't know. I hear a little bit of feedback too. I don't know why, but I'm gonna.
Kenny's asking, what is the worst hoax you have uncovered?
Uh,
Well, I mean, that was definitely one of them. I think a lot of other hoaxes are things like the Amityville and things of that nature, where there were so many hidden agendas and financial benefits from these people. Things were really just blown way out of proportion.
somebody else is asking, uh, what case have you done that has stumped you as of what is going on?
It has stumped me. Geez, you know what? I'm not sure. I'm not really sure because there's cases that we found right down to people needing psychological help, people who are over medicating, under medicating, and paranormal wise, it's always questionable. It's always you always really need to double think every conclusion you come up with.
Mhm.
So I really can't say I've had cases that have stumped me because I've always been able to reach out to, again, like people like Kenny or other people who I can reach out to who can help guide me through some of the things.
Yeah, but I think that's important, like that people know that because the shows now, and I've said this on so many of my shows now just I mean, even for private homes, people are looking if they don't know any better, looking at watching these shows and it's like, "Oh, you know, this is what's happening," and then all of a sudden they get scared, they think someone's trying to kill them, and it's like, becomes a big, huge I mean, just having that
And so when you and I first met, it was that phenomenology,
right.
and actually I think the first time you saw me talk, I was sitting up on that panel, and I don't have a filter. I say I say what I think without thinking of who it might affect, just because it's the way I view it, and I don't ever mean it as an attack towards anybody. But you're right. Too many people go out there and oh, it's a demon. Let me, I can get it out of your house by doing this, or it's attached to this object. Let me remove this object from your house. Um, Too much of that is out there, and people really need to take that into consideration. And too many people try to play off of the fears of others for financial benefits for themselves, and I think that's horrible. I mean, you have no idea. And first off, my show started back in 2004. We're with one of the biggest reality TV companies out there, which is also owned by a major movie corporation. We've been There's been offers left and right about making movies and doing things of that nature and taking cases and blowing them out of proportion. And but that's not what it's about for us. It's not about the fear factor. It's not. I could have done this and been totally set for life. But it's not about that for us. It's about keeping it real and trying to take away that whole fear factor idea. And I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah, and that's it too because, like, that's why I started doing this. So I'm so happy you're here because, like I said, a lot of people out there and you are a guy, you're so fun to hang out with, you're awesome. You're just like,
I'm
when
down to
we
earth.
met, I felt like I've known you for
Well, because exactly who I am on TV is the same person that you meet. I don't put on a persona to be somebody different. I'm like I said, I'm a plumber out of New England, and that's who I am. Whether TV comes and goes, I mean, it'll never be there forever. So if I try to become, if I think, oh, I'm all this because I'm on TV, well, then it's going to be a hard awakening for me in the future, and that's not what it's about. I mean, I'm me. I'm the most down to earth person, and I think anybody who's ever hung out with me has realized that.
yeah. And I've always, and you having children, I'm sure. I mean, I don't have human kids. I have fur babies.
Yeah.
However,
I got like
um,
50,000 human kids. So I mean, they're everywhere. There's girls, boys, you name it. They're coming out
and
of the woodwork. I mean, oh, you're mine too. No, no, but it's I got my three boys. My three daughters. I've got six kids total. My daughters are older. My sons, this is their senior year, and they graduate this year. And then I've got no more little ones, just grandkids.
right. So, and that's the thing. I have nieces and nephews and stuff, and I started doing this because of all of those shows that were post Ghost Hunters, where I'm thinking, what if there's like this 14-year-old kid watching this, and he thinks that's what you're supposed to do, just run around the cemetery, say, oh, throw something at me, do this, do that, and
Well, and then you leave the house. If somebody calls you in and you do that and you leave the house, and
right,
if there is something there, then these people have to now deal with the ramifications of your
right.
actions. And
Right. And you guys had that follow-up. You guys had that follow-up. You sat down with the family. You didn't have them crying. You said, "Okay, this is what we think. This is what is happening. This is how we handle it." It was always done so professionally, and to me, in my heart, I feel like like that is how you were supposed to handle, you know, private cases for sure, but even if you're going to an abandoned place and stuff, you can't just go running around in these abandoned places, you know what I mean?
well, and that's it. And honestly, what you see on television is the way we've always done it in the first place. We didn't change up our investigation methods to be on TV. I mean, when we were asked to do television, we turned down doing TV 5 different times. It wasn't until Craig Peligian, the owner of Pilgrim Films, said he sat us down, and this all stemmed from a New York Times article. We had this great reporter come out, went with us on an investigation. It came out on Halloween Day. Out on the Wire, went viral, but we were able to disprove this haunting as a medication issue. And from there, TV options were coming out of the woodwork. And I had been offered TV shows prior as well, because I had helped out on everything from MTV's Fear, Scariest Place, and other things of that nature. But we just didn't see what we did translating well on television. So we didn't want to be on TV. But Craig had said something, and I thought it was one of the most important things. He had said, if you don't do it, somebody else is going to, and how is the field going to be represented? And that struck home. That was one of those things where, it's true. And we can see there's been a ton of shows that have come and gone that have been, everything's blown out of proportion. A demon's chasing me, this, that, whatever. And that's what we didn't want. We didn't want that to be the first thing that people saw when it came down to this field. And so we agreed to do the show. We signed on to do 10 episodes, figuring it wouldn't last more than that. And who the hell would have realized that almost 20 years later, we're sitting 17 years later. I mean, we're sitting here, and
I know.
I'm doing the same show that I started the field off in.
And, and it's what you love doing, and you do it the right way. And it's. I mean, I love Steve and Tango are great together. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Dynamic, and then just, and then Mary, she's amazing. I love her. I think she's so awesome.
And Steve's been with me. A lot of people don't realize that I've known Steve longer than I've known Grant. Steve was with me before Grant and I even knew each other. And so it's nice when I turned down doing Ghost Hunters with the reboot, because they wanted to cast people around me. And I didn't like that idea. I mean, Steve's been with me since day one. Dave's been with me for 15 years. Sherry I've known for 20 years. So all these people were a serious part in my life, and I knew I could trust all those people. So nothing personal. I mean, I know Barry. I know. Brian. I know Rochelle, and they're phenomenal people. They really are. But these are the people that I've always worked with. These are the people who I know how they're going to handle a situation and everything else. And also, I didn't want to do a show that put me here and everybody else below me. Like I'm the godfather. I'm going to be teaching everybody. No, it's not about that. It was about us being a team. So I declined doing the show, and we kicked off Ghost Nation. And Ghost Nation became a monstrous show for Travel Channel. I mean, the ratings were through the roof. And then when Ghost Hunters didn't get re-signed, the fans really didn't think it was what I think they wanted the way it was, and or the faces that they remembered, and they came to us and they said, you know what, would you guys be willing to take this? And Discovery said, well, we're interested as long as Jason is interested and does it with his team. Um, so we talked as a team, as a bunch of friends, and we all agreed because if any of us had any reserves, we said the hell with it and stuck with Ghost Nation. Um, and we agreed to take it back because this is the show we started, and this is the show that really opened up the whole genre of paranormal television. And so we agreed to do it, and as a team, as a family, and again, it's just we're really ecstatic to be back and doing what we love to do under the name that we built.
Right. Absolutely. And that's the thing. I mean, for me, it gives me a sense of like, oh, finally, like this is what we need. You know what I mean? So sick of all the other shows. Like I stopped watching paranormal shows because of all that. I used to love Ghost Hunters one, I watched it. I mean, like it was my favorite show to watch, and not just because of like I told you before, it was educational for me. I was just getting into this. I was afraid of all of this prior. I didn't want to do anything paranormal, until I had my first experience. And then I was like, all right, what is this about? And then boom, you're Ghost Hunters, right? So I'm watching you guys. So I'm like taking notes, this and that. You guys were my first kind of like teacher, if you will. So
And just to take the show back, you know how much it meant to us when I came out and I said that we were going to start doing Ghost Hunters again. I ran into a bunch of fans at a convention because we appeared at a convention, and people were in tears. And to realize that the show meant that much to so many, I mean, you got to remember back when I was doing Ghost Hunters for years, it was us and MythBusters were the highest watched show on cable, and it was. I mean, we were shattering records on
mhm,
cable and stuff, and it was amazing. It was amazing to see how far the field had come, and that people could honestly talk about it and not feel like they're being shunned. And that meant everything to us. But when we decided that we were going to take it back, and the word got out, just the fact that I'd run into fans and they'd literally be crying really meant that we made the right choice. That we were back where we were supposed to be.
yeah, and I also did I like how, um, you guys were working with private houses again,
Yeah.
you
And,
know?
and we still are, and you'll see a bunch of those. But of course, with COVID, this whole COVID thing, we've had to, pick and choose the houses a little more cautiously because the fact of the matter is, I mean, we go to somebody's home, they have a family, we get somebody sick, or they get us sick, and we bring it home to our family is definitely a concern. And there's a lot of people out there who don't want to be vaccinated in this, so it and with production, it creates this whole situation where you're like, are we going to be able to do it or not? So
Right.
we do have a bunch of residential cases, but we also have some really cool locations as well, some larger locations.
Mhm.
But I do want to stick more to the residential and the families because those are the people who truly need help. And when I go to a big location, who am I helping?
Right. I mean, those are the fun things, you know what I mean? Those are the breaks I feel like when you're helping a family, that's more like not a job, but for me, I mean, the last 5 private cases that's come my way, we didn't do an investigation. We went out, we talked with them, we helped them understand what they were feeling, whether it was or wasn't, um, and I think that's a success when you don't have to do an investigation necessarily. Um,
Yeah, and I also think very important. So the early years of Ghost Hunters, I think were my favorite because you'd see us being ourselves. You see us, we do the case, but you'd also see us go and screw around, do stupid stuff like we always do. And so we incorporated that into Ghost Nation and stuff. And one of the things when we were talking about taking Ghost Hunters back was when we did the initial Ghost Hunters, it was more of like a preliminary investigation. I mean, we'd be there for just a couple of days, but we'd have because we were doing 26 episodes a year, we'd have to be off to the next case. So we were stuck in this time restraint, which we didn't have with Nation. And I mean, Nation, I could be there as long as I wanted to. It was up to me. So when we were taking hunters back, and what some of the things I said was, I made sure that with Nation that you were able to see an investigation from the beginning to the end, and all the stuff we did in between. And if I do hunters, I want to be able to do that again. I want it to be a full investigation. I don't want to be given limits on times or that we can't go screw around on an off day because it's not going to fit in the episode.
Right.
And they were like, fine, do it the way you want to do it. So you're going to see on hunters, you're going to see that these investigations are longer, but also that we'll get out and we'll do stupid crap. I mean, we'll go out, we'll jump in go-karts, we'll run each other off the tracks, we'll have an axe throwing contest. I mean, all these things that I think made hunters so different in the beginning because people felt like they were really connected with us, and we're able to reincorporate a lot of that stuff. And I think people are going to be really happy with it.
Absolutely. I remember when you guys had you had outtakes of just Steve and Tango and how they were how their interaction like behind the scenes, how Steve's always betting Tango to do stuff, and how he got initiated when he had like the crown on his head.
Oh yeah,
Kind of stuff.
Tango's tiara.
Yes.
Yep.
That was amazing.
But that's the stuff we've always done. I mean,
Yeah.
it's things like that, and I think it also goes to show where I think one of the problems with the original reboot, was that you're putting a bunch of people together and trying to get them to pretend that they have this friendship, this bond, where Steve, Dave, me, Sherry, I mean, we have this bond.
Right.
It's Steve, like I said, I mean, we've known each other for so long. I knew Sherry before she had kids. Dave lived with me for almost 2 years during Ghost Hunters. So we're a family that truly has a relationship and a close bond with one another. And I think that translates on camera. That's not being pretended or faked or anything. I mean, even when we're not filming, we're hanging out, we're doing stuff, we're meeting up with each other. And geez, I've got pictures of Steve with my daughters who now again are full grown. They're 2 feet tall, sitting on his lap while he's on the back porch.
Right.
Things like that. Those things can't be fake. Those things can't be just manipulated and expect the viewer to think that there's that bond there. I mean, we really have it.
And I think that's what makes it so successful as well. Like, I feel like the show, because it's real, like it's real.
It's all about keeping it real. That's what it's always been about to us.
Yeah. And I've always said that about your show. I was like, I said, and I tell everybody, I tell people, I'm like, you can't watch all those other shows. I'm like, if you want to watch a show, watch Ghost Hunters. I'm like, that's what you gotta watch.
Yeah, and I think there's so many different shows out there, and some great shows that bring. If we all did it the same way, I don't feel like the field would go forward. I feel like everybody doing things their own style is what helps push the field forward. It's this guy doing it this way, this girl doing it that way, us doing it our way, is really what helps push the field forward. And people can find something they like or they dislike in every episode, in every show, in every series, every individual.
Yeah. There was somebody back here. So my friend Greg O'Brien, who runs Fort Mifflin.
Oh, geez, I love that place.
Wants you to come there. He said,
I would love to get back there.
Oh, Fort Mifflin's great. The history alone.
I mean, we were some of the first people that were allowed to crawl into that underground area that they had just found. I mean, amazing place, really. I love it.
Everybody say they're having audio. Me, I don't know.
I mean, my audio is perfect, so
you can hear me, okay? Actually, nobody has to hear me. I don't care if they hear me.
So you just shh.
Yeah, nobody has to hear me. They're here for me. They're here for you.
I hear you fine, but I'm actually in kind of a studio, so it's like I've got all the professional gear we can go. So
somebody has a question.
Yeah.
If you had a chance to buy a haunted location to use for Paranormal Research Center, test new equipment or experiments, what would it be and why?
Oh, a place to buy. Jeez, that's a tough one. I mean, there's some really interesting places that I've been. I mean, the Stanley Hotel, St. Augustine Lighthouse. These are places that I truly believe have some activity going on. I don't know. We bought the Spalding Inn, the hotel in New Hampshire, because it had a reputation of over 100 years of being haunted. So, I mean, that was a wonderful place that we had, and we were constantly investigating it, and hanging out, and checking out new things. So, um, I can't really, off the top of my head, I can't give you an exact location. I'm sorry. Sorry to be a bummer on that one.
I was just saying, you were also the first time I've ever saw a live investigation at Stanley Hotel when you guys did the Halloween stuff.
Oh yeah, yeah. Those were long nights, 6 hour live shows, and people always ask why I stopped doing them. And the thing is, because my sons and my youngest daughter Satori, they were little. I mean, it really sucked because I've never missed a birthday. And the one thing I've always promised is I'd never miss a holiday, an important day, a birthday, a father daughter dance, nothing, because the show can come and go, but my family's forever. And so I always made sure every father daughter dance, every birthday, every holiday, and Halloween was the only one that I ended up being away, and I hated it because it was like, I mean, seeing my kids in there, I'd get pictures sent to me, and it's like, come on, that's really not what I want. So I did a couple Halloween shows, and then I just made sure that they couldn't afford me to do the Halloween shows because no matter what, because bottom line is I wanted to be home, and there was no amount of money that could have you know given me back that time. So that's why I stopped doing the Halloween shows. But and I told Sci-Fi, I said, hey, you want to do it on the 29th? You want to do it on the 30th? Fine, just not on Halloween. And they're like, it's got to be Halloween. Well, then you're shit out of luck. I'm not doing it. So
Well, I remember watching, and I don't know if it was the first time or the second time that you went. And I was almost asleep because I was a trooper back in the day. I would be like watching. And I remember it was probably around 3:30 in the morning. You and Grant were in the basement.
oh, the girl voice.
The girl
Yeah.
alone. And
Yeah.
I sat right up. I was like, oh
Yeah.
my God.
Yeah.
Amazing.
The laughter and everything. And that was crazy. And the Stanley Hotel being built into a mountain. I mean, you gotta wonder what type of energy that could help, or I mean, that could expel, or what. I mean, there's so many different claims in that property. There's so many different things that go on, and I mean, it's just a wonderful property. It really is.
With having kids, like what age do you think is appropriate for someone to get into the paranormal field?
Honestly, I don't think there is any specific age. It's because, so when it comes down to the show, I had my daughters on the show when, so Samantha was on the show. Well, actually, first it was Haley. So Samantha's the oldest. So Sam had graduated high school and was in college. Haley graduated high school and had like a year before she started college. So I had her on the show with me. Well, when she started college, Sam had just finished college, her first round. So then Sam came on the show. Me and Haley was in college, and then I had Satori on the past shows, and she'll be on an episode of Ghost Hunters. You'll see. So it's always been when they're set from school, and because I've always told my kids the most important thing is first off honesty and school, and that's the most important things. That's the only things I'll ever ask from you. So I've had Satori on it. Now my boys, if they want to be a part of it, fine. But my boys were 6, 7, 8 years old when we owned the Spalding Inn, and they were walking around at night investigating. They were having fun because we've always raised them with the belief that it shouldn't be terrifying. Think of it like a puzzle. You're putting a puzzle together. You're putting a puzzle together, trying to figure out what it is. So make it more intriguing than scary. And that's the way all my kids have always looked at it. So, I mean, of course, for safety's sakes, you don't want 6, 7 year olds walking around on their own doing stuff. But I've never had a problem getting them involved early, and being raised in the paranormal.
That's good. I mean, you never know. I mean, nieces and nephews, and like they ask me questions, and you try not to. You're always worried you're gonna. I don't want to scare them about anything, so cautious of how you talk. You know what I mean? Like what you talk
Yeah,
about.
but
How
I
you
think it's
talk about it.
Hollywood. I think it's Hollywood that makes it scary because you
Right.
got to think of that. Because I mean, you've been on investigations, and really, you might get startled, you might get spooked here and there, but when it comes to, and of course, you don't want them going off to a so-called demonic type haunting, which are 99.9% of those have nothing to do with demonics, anyways. But you don't want them going off and doing something like that. But I mean, just a so-called human type haunt. I mean, there's Hollywood's what makes it scary, and I think once they learn that, I think it's important. I mean, I can remember when Satori was like 8 years old, and I had just come back from an investigation with Steve and everything, and she came in the house and she's like, "Dad, I think I have a ghost in my room." I was like, "What?" She's like, "Keep on hearing all these weird sounds and everything else." I was like, "All right." So I went down with her to her bedroom. We sat in her room, and it was about 10 minutes. All of a sudden the voice happened. We're like, "Oh, there's definitely a voice." Well, I sat there with her for probably an hour or two, and Satori was able, and I knew what it was, but she was able to figure out that it was a Furby. Remember those Furbies? It was a Furby with a low batteries. So every so
Oh,
often the sensor would go off and it would start talking. But it was so empowering for her to be able to figure out what it was, realize that it wasn't a ghost, and solve it herself. And just seeing that, I think it was just like I said, it was just so empowering for her. And I think that's what it's all about. It took that fear factor right out, and it showed her a lot of times these things can be explained.
yeah. Um, Here's an interesting question. Jason, what was your personal experience that got you interested into the paranormal?
Well, my first experience was I saw what I appeared to be a male apparition, um, of an Indian, and it was walking, and from there, I mean, it disappeared, but it was trying to. I think from there, it was just trying to understand how it was possible. Because initially, you think, "Am I losing my mind? Is something wrong with me?" All those other thoughts go through your head, but after that, it's more just trying to. All right, well, if I'm not crazy, then how did this just happen?
Mhm.
Um, and that, yeah, so that was my first experience.
Um, my sister, this is my sister, Jody.
Hey,
Mommy.
Jody.
Mommy would like to know if Jason's home is haunted or any home he has ever lived in.
I don't believe my home is haunted. It would be great if it was because I could investigate from the luxury of my couch. But no, we own the Spalding, which was said to be haunted for 100 plus years. Which was a great place. We had a lot of fun there investigating. I mean, we would. It was funny because the place was really active, and to the point where, and people still tell you, I'd go up into our sleeping quarters and come down in the morning, and there'd be people sleeping in the lobby because they had experiences in their room and they were scared, so they came and slept in the lobby. So, being in a place like that was fun. I mean, it was you
Do you
never.
still own it?
No, we ended up getting rid of it shortly after Grant left the show.
Mm,
It was just tough trying to run a place that was 3.5 hours from here.
right.
It was a restaurant, bar, hotel, and it's just not easy trying to run a place that far away.
Yeah. Um, I learned that you actually do. Hold on, I wrote this down so I wouldn't mess it up.
Let's see that. Let's see if you mess this up. No, what do you got?
Um, that you do. Where did I write it? Oh, charity work for
Oh, I do a lot of charity work. Yeah, absolutely.
Shiners Hospital, I want to say.
Cure kids. Yeah, Hasbro. Cure kids cancer for Hasbro, and a lot of things like right. Even every time I did Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, we always it was always to raise money for Hasbro Children's Hospital, and I mean, I think it's all about giving back. I mean, and I did a lot of that stuff long before I was famous. It was especially when it comes down to children. I mean, children are everything. I mean, it's like I said, I've got six myself, and
Right.
I can't imagine. One of my closest friends, Cassie, is going through a thing right now with her daughter who just finished chemo. But I mean, it's I just sent her a bunch of toys, so when she came home from the hospital, she had all these Disney dresses and this Disney tent and all that. It's honestly, if you can make a child's life a little brighter, then you've done a great thing in this world.
Absolutely. And that's like one of the Gettysburg Battlefield Bash. They're it's for veterans, but also children with cancer.
Yeah,
Um, and you haven't been to that yet.
I have not. No, I think that's the one. Was that the one that Sherry had went to or something?
Yeah, I think she was there the first year,
Yeah,
maybe.
because I think she was telling me about that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's that's a really fun time. And
My friend Howie goes there too. Yeah.
yes, Howie, yes, 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 yes. Um, but yeah, that one also, I love being a part of that. I help them out because it feels good to give back. I mean,
Really does.
you're doing something that you love, and then when you see results from what it's not a job. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, you lay down, you're like, wow. Like, I mean, this year I think we at the bash, I think they raised over $10,000. And just be a part of that little bit, even though it was just a little bit.
Well, and it means so much to people. It's like it was fun. So at one point we were filming up in Canandaigua, New York, where I was born. I was born in Canandaigua, and a mother stopped by and was telling us about her daughter's birthday. And her daughter was having a birthday party um, later that day and everything. And so I got the address, and her daughter was a huge fan. A little girl, she's like 11 years old, and we just randomly showed up at her birthday party. And I took Grant with me, and we just randomly showed up there, and it made her day. But it's funny because it was like I think 2 months ago or something on Twitter. I see this one post from this girl. She's like, "Hey, I'm so and so. You came by my birthday in Canandaigua, New York," and now she's in her 20s and stuff. And you're like, "Oh my god!" So it meant so much to her. I mean, she's still remembering that to this day. She's still following me online, and just the fact that you can make her life that much brighter, especially that day. I mean, it means everything. It really does.
Yeah, I mean, it's gotta really like what you're doing. I mean, I think it just adds to the impact you have on people's lives. And I'm sure, like you said to me, I'm down to earth. I'm just this normal Joe guy. You know what I mean? But to somebody like that, you're this huge impact in her life, and to be able to, for how as long as she lives, she's going to remember. Like, that's going to be the biggest moment. You know what I mean? Like,
But even like that night, like you got to see, or those couple nights. I mean, I was just the guy hanging out in the lobby. I was the guy
mhm.
sitting in the chair. I was the guy having a drink and just BSing with anybody who wanted to BS. And and I mean that's what it's about. It's just like I said, people make TV. TV does not make the people. So being on TV doesn't make you any better than anybody else. And you need to understand that TV comes and goes. So if you think that you're special because you're on TV, then you're going to have a hell of an awakening when
Yeah, and
it all stops.
unfortunately, there are some people that are like that.
Yeah,
Um,
but I mean, but anybody who's gotten to meet me or hang out with me and everything else will realize that I'm not like that because I don't care whether I'm on TV or not. I was doing the paranormal long before I was in television. When I quit Ghost Hunters, when I said I had had enough and I walked away, um, I still investigated. And it's like so. This TV is just an avenue to get the word out, to help make the field more open, and from there, I mean, it comes and goes.
um, so Dr. Don, I don't know if you know Dr. Haunted MD. He was at the Bash last year. He said he's going back. And Kenny, I don't know if this is going to entice you at all, but there's a dunk tank.
Really,
And Kenny was the winner of the first dunk tank trophy. A
who
lot of people were lined up.
who they dunk?
Kenny.
Oh, Kenny was the one being dunked. Holy crap!
Yes.
I'll come there just for that.
I said, can you imagine the line
Oh
of
my
people
gosh,
wanting to dunk
Kenny,
Kenny?
Kenny, I love you too, man. I see it over there.
And he said,
It's funny. It's like even when we did the phenomenology. I mean, people were all like, oh, "You're going to do a panel with Kenny?" why wouldn't I do a panel with Kenny? And that's another. I mean, again, we we respect each other's beliefs. We respect who each of us are. And I like Kenny as an individual, whether he was, a skeptic or not. Still the kind of guy I'd hang out with because he's a blue collar guy just like myself, and we like to screw around. We like to have fun, and I think that's what it's all about. But yeah, being able to get up there on stage and talk with him. Like I've been talking to Kenny about him and I doing like theater gigs together because I get up on stage and I'll have 3,000 people in the theater and that we're talking to, and it'd be great for Kenny to be with me on some of these, giving his point of view on some of the things I show. Well, I show this, but get Kenny's view on it as well. So we've been talking about doing some appearances together like that on stage, and I think it'd be great because I think it would help really connect it to the skeptical but the paranormal, right down the middle. And I think that's important.
Yeah, I think that that's a great idea. I would love that. That would be awesome.
And
Um,
so Nicole's asking what scariest
yeah.
EVP y'all captured. Honestly, I think the one that shocked me the most was when we were in California, and it's we caught this weird voice saying, "I like the one in the hat," and I was wearing a hat. It never really they don't scare you, but they startle you. They spook you, and because sometimes you get to this point where you're like, this thing can see me, I can't see it. So yeah, so more startled, more spooked. But
Oh wait,
Cody, your work in bringing truth and honesty to the paranormal field is greatly appreciated. Well, thank you very much. But it takes all of you guys watching the show to make it a success. Because if I did this and nobody watched, then it wouldn't make any difference. But it takes all of the support and the fans and the appreciation that has made the show a success. So thank you to every single one of you.
yeah, I remember, and I brought this up to you because it's the one episode that's always stuck with me. It was a private home, and it was a woman, and she had taken in her niece after her sister passed, and her niece had the ashes.
That was a tough one. Yeah, that was a tough case.
And it was like I remember you guys called that EVP, and it was like you said I thought it was Chesney, and said that's within the nickname.
Yeah, and it's crazy how sometimes things like that come together, and because you don't know, it's just like there's going to be an episode of Ghost Hunters, which I don't want to blow, but you're going to see a side of Satori, my daughter, that I love my daughter, and I've never asked anybody to change their investigation methods to follow mine. I want each person to be different, do their own thing. And Satori does her own thing. And we had this case where her and Cody were able to get this name, and then it was this person who supposedly was reaching out and contacting them, and then the person wanted them to tell this lady that they were okay, and we're like, huh, all right, no idea. So the next day, I've got Dave and Sherry. They're going to try to talk to a couple of the locals who've been in this area forever. And they find this one lady, and lady has the same first name. So while they're there, I'm like, Dave, just ask her about this, see if there's any connection. And wait until you see that episode because, first off, the lady broke down, Dave broke down, Sherry broke. I mean, my producer behind the camera broke down, and just so the information that Cody and Tori got, I mean, just it sent that investigation on a whole new path. I mean, it was mind blowing, and stuff like that. So it's amazing how sometimes those pieces just fall into that puzzle.
And I think it does that for a reason, though. Like I feel like
Great.
the other side is trying to get, and I feel like the way it goes about happening makes it more validating for whoever is supposed to be receiving the message or receiving that connection.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. It's amazing, but it also is great because it's so real and it's so true, and it's just one of those things where you don't have to change anything. You don't need. I mean, it's look at this. I mean, how can something like this happen? Where's that connection? And That's the one thing I have to say. I mean, out of all my children, Samantha is very much like me when it comes down to investigating. Haley is kind of riding that fine line. Satori's got something that I don't think I've ever experienced before, and I mean, it's all amazing.
Um, so I'm gonna like bunch a whole bunch of things together. Because somebody brought up, Nicole brought up, why do you think spirits like to drain our electronics?
I
But I
don't.
also want to know,
It's not that I think they like to drain our electronics, and it's not even that I think that they knowingly are. I'm not sure if maybe it's the energy that they're giving off somehow is conflicting with the energy. Maybe it is that they're able to draw some sort of energy from these things without purposely knowing that they're doing it. But I mean, there's some correlation between things dying, electronics dying, and activity picking up. But then again, you have to be careful because some people now these days will sit there and say, "All my electronics died and all this craziness happened." Well, okay, is that true? So that's so you got to walk that fine line with that.
do you have a piece of equipment that you like to use? And like, what are your thoughts on equipment that people are using? And um,
Well, I can tell you right now, I hate things like the Ovilus. I hate it. I hate things like the spirit boxes. I because first off, how are you going to tell me that in 5 minutes you're going to teach a ghost that if he gets this device to 2.4 it's going to give this word out? None of it makes any sense to me, especially seeing I'm living using actually holding the device and I can't figure out how the hell it works. So how's a ghost from the 1800s going to understand it? So things like that. um, we are constantly working on different types of things, whether it's different types of thermal, whether it's different types of 360 high speed cams, infrasound systems, things of that nature. And I'm hoping that more and more people step forward and start working on new devices, engineers coming in, figuring out new things to keep the field growing. Because I don't ever want the field to get stagnant. Sit
right.
around. Some of my favorite devices are like recorders, but thermal imaging cameras, things of that nature. Yeah, it's tough, especially now. Like somebody brings you a picture and they want you to analyze it. Well, it's tough to analyze a picture because it's like reading one page out of a novel. I don't
Right.
know what happened prior, what happened after. All I got is this one picture. And pictures and video can be manipulated now. Like say, there's apps that you can download on your phone that allow you to stick a ghost directly into it. And it's like this isn't helping us. This is hurting us. And then you get these people who literally will use it and put a picture out there and tell everybody it's real. And then you get all these other people commenting how incredible of a picture it is when it's phony. So it drives you crazy.
Yeah. I'm my favorite are EVPs. I love EVPs and I think in my all of my years of investigating, I have one picture. That's it. So I really don't bring cameras. Thermal imaging, I would, if I ever was able to get one, but I'm with you. I don't like all the bleeps, the whistles, the colors,
I
the
agree. I agree.
and the spirit box is like I can't buy into it. I'm like
Or the ghost radar, right? The ghost radar.
it's yeah,
Yeah,
it's
look at it.
scanning radio channels. I mean,
Yeah,
you could
or like I said, the ghost radar that people are like, oh, look at this ghost everywhere. No, come on. But EVPs. I like EVPs if they're somehow connected directly to a question you've asked,
right,
things of that nature, or if it's connected to something in the past of the house, uh, where we've always been the type we do no research before we go to a location because I mean that's a common psychic trick. They go and research the property even though they say they don't, and then have all this information. We go, we investigate a couple days. Then, after we investigate and we've gone through that evidence, anything we've got, we go and research. Now, if the research connects to what we've caught, that helps build credibility on it. Where I mean, if I go and research a property ahead of time and I find out that a boy Tim burned to death in the back room, I'm going to be contaminated. I'm going to go and looking for a boy Tim who might have burned to death. I don't want to do that. So we always do our research after a few days of already investigating to see if it lines up.
yeah. Um, I had Ron Giacovetti and Lourdes Gonzalez on a week ago, and they were talking about this thing that they use. It's I always want to say DVR, but DRP, where it's kind of like a it doesn't it doesn't scan channels. It's kind of like like it's a I don't understand. I'm very bad technically wise.
That sounds like it.
But um it doesn't use radio frequency to scan, and they're getting like these direct answers and this and that. Like they sent me some videos on it because I told them how bad I was with. I said I don't like spirit box. I don't like the scanning the radio things and all that. But it doesn't use radio frequency to.
I don't know. I'd have to check into it a little more. Like, and it's funny. I know I keep on throwing it back to Kenny, but I've even talked with Kenny on devices and been like, "Hey, man, we get this with this device. Is it possible for you to check out these things and give me your thoughts on it?" Because it's always nice to have an outside source look at something and be like, "All right, you could be getting a false positive because of this or that." Because these things come into play, and I think it's important to always know what could contaminate a piece of equipment. I mean, I've been on events and stuff and seen people manipulating walkies to try to make devices go off, and you're like, you're like, hey, really? That's so you're faking evidence using a walkie, trying to make a device go off, and I've also heard other situations of people trying to do stuff like that, and it's horrible. It really is.
It is, and it's just so bad for us when we really, I can sometimes hear, so I hear disembodied voices, but I also do pick it up on my recorder.
Well, but if you hear it, it's a disembodied voice. But if you don't hear it, that's when it's considered an EVP.
Right.
You aren't able to hear with your ears.
Right. There were so many questions, and like I'm trying to. Bill Freeman, he runs Selma Mansion. He's saying hi.
Hello, Will.
Um,
And Kenny says it good right there. Knowing the internal components of a ghost gadget is important. Also, knowing what other variables can manipulate a device is important, and that's true. That's 100% accurate. Because without that, somebody could fake as much stuff as they want because you're naive to how that device actually works.
Mm-hmm. And they do. People do. They do it. And that's what's important to how you are. I love your loyalty, because you work with people that you trust. Nobody's going to fake anything. Nobody's going to do anything to jeopardize the integrity of ghost hunters or you.
And those people that I have to concern myself about, I try to remove from my life. Bottom line, because I don't ever want to have to question if something is real or was real, or if that person's experience was real. I mean, if I do, then I'm working with the wrong person.
Absolutely. I only have 2 minutes left with you, so that went really fast. I know. I looked over and I'm like, geek. I'm like, oh.
I'll give you a couple extra minutes. That way I can get up and start cooking stuff.
Yes. Yeah. How? So you brought up your kids. Like, how do they deal with? I'm sure, to them this is probably normal. They grew up with this type of. But I mean, they go to school. I mean, their friends see you on TV, and your wife has to be so. I mean, like, because you go away, and you're on TV. Like, how does the family deal with that part of it?
Well, my family is the most important thing in the world to me, and I quit jobs in the past because it took way too much time from the family. Why I finally said the hell with it with ghost hunters was because I just felt like, first off, we had reached as far as I could with ghost hunters at that point, and I just needed to be home more often. My family has been great. My sons, I started the show Ghost Hunters when they were 4 days old. Literally, I got the call that Ghost Hunters was a go the day they were born. So I was standing in the hospital room, and Craig called me and said, "Hey, the show's a go." I'm like, "Well, my kids were just born." He goes, "Don't worry about it. We won't start filming for at least 4 days." I was like, "Great." That's why we had to that's why we put a trailer in my yard, because the twins were just born, so we couldn't have the meetings in the house like we always did. So the twins have grown. My sons have grown up knowing this. And Satori, I mean, she was 3 years old, 4 years old when I started the show. Sam and Hale, of course, it was a change to them because now all of a sudden their dad was this really famous person, especially Rhode Island, where the state's 47 miles by 38 miles. I mean, I live in the smallest state in the country. So no matter where, but I'm still that same guy where, and you can see it on Twitter or Facebook all the time where people are like, I saw you at Walmart the other day. Yeah, because I go out and get my own groceries. This is who I am. So living in Rhode Island has made it easier. Of course, there's the times you go out to the movies with the kids and people are trying to take your picture and the kids are like, but but living in Rhode Island has made it easier because people are so used to seeing you. Because I'm at Walmart, I'm at Home Depot, I'm at Lowe's, I'm at Best Buy. I'm all over the place. I'm in the right state for it. Put it that way. But it's one of those things where I mean, we just had a pasta dinner for the boys football team, and their friends all came over, and they're friends who see me all the time but never get a chance to talk to me. Now want to sit down and talk to me about the paranormal and how it is to be on television and everything else. So we just take it one day at a time. But
Yeah,
like I said, it doesn't change who we are.
right.
Um, because at the end of the day, I'm still dad, and I'm still when I'm home, and there's no question about that. It's whether I'm out mowing my lawn like I was doing today, or leaf blowing my driveway like I was doing yesterday. I mean, this is just or going and hanging out with the boys and grabbing some dinner down the road. I mean, this is
Yeah.
just who we are.
Yeah, and that's what I love. I mean, unfortunately, I have met a couple people, that you think are going to be really cool, but they're not. And then, um,
See,
and
Kenny
then
said, "Huh, we went to Walmart while we were in Gettysburg." Yes, we
yeah,
did. Me, Kenny, and his wife. We all went out to Walmart. So,
I'm in
it's
Gettysburg like every month. It's like my
Well, it's funny. So no matter where I go when I'm on the road, the first thing I'll do is we'll get into town, and usually I'll shoot Dave and Sherry and Steve. Well, Steve's always driving, so he's a day late. But I'll shoot Dave and Sherry a text and be like, "Going to do a Walmart run." So we'll all go to Walmart. We'll do some grocery shopping for the week we're there because instead of going out and blowing money at restaurants and eating out all the time, and so then we'll just head back to the hotel and we all chill out. So
yeah. I mean, and that's the fun parts. You know what I mean? Like I loved like the lectures and everything like that, but like it's the in betweens where you get to just like kind of hang out with people and just relax for a little bit. And
yeah. And I love the lecture. I love being able because I'm one of those people where you got to see I don't have a filter. So, and I never, some people, it was funny because even that day in Gettysburg, a couple ladies came up to me and said, they go, we always thought you were a real hard ass. I go, oh, sorry. They're like, no, no, no. We just realized that you're so straightforward. You just don't care. You just say what you think. And I'm like, well, great. And because that's just how I am. I'm just one of those people that I say, it's not that I'm trying to ever insult anybody or attack anybody. And I thought it was funny, like Aaron Sagers when he's talking about the show with how people, the paranormal caught on camera and they just want to see that. And I'm like, well, maybe if they have the attention span of pocket lint, yeah, but people want to see an investigation. They want
yeah,
to know what goes into it. And Aaron later, he's like, I had to apologize. I'm like, no, I mean, I just say what I think right off the cuff. And sometimes it gets me in trouble, but I mean, it's honest. What I'm saying is 100% honest because the way I'm saying it.
yeah, absolutely. And I remember even that woman that stood up, and I don't know her. I think a lot of people in the field know so I forgive me, I forget her name, but stood up and was kind of almost like going at Sherry about being picked to be on the show because she's pretty with big boobs, and it's like,
Oh,
and
and so like I said, I've known Sherry for 20 years. Sherry investigated and everything else, and she's one of those people who I've known her forever. I know her mom, I know her dad. She wasn't picked because she had big boobs or anything else. She's a beautiful woman. I'm not gonna. But Chris Williams, who I knew since she was like
wow,
17, who was a friend who was interested in the paranormal, and we brought her on the show. Again, that became a thing where they only picked her because she's beautiful. No, okay, she is a beautiful woman, but that's not why we brought her on because somebody that we've known for so many years that we know we can trust that who truly is interested in this field and wants to understand how these things are possible. And that's the thing. I mean, I don't look at it like this lady's beautiful, I'm going to put her on camera. I mean, that's just not how we are. And I think you saw that. It's again, even when we were hanging out, I'm talking to everybody. I hang out with everybody. I'm not just going and hang out with the pretty girls or this because everybody's beautiful in their own way. So, in whether they're physically attractive or attractive from their inside, I mean, that as long as
But
they're
that's not what it's about, and
as long as they're good people, I think that's all that matters.
right, and that's not what it's about.
No.
It's about what positivity you bring into this, because
That's right.
there's a lot of negativity within the
There's a
paranormal.
lot of miserable individuals. There really are, and or people who feel like the world owes them something or whatever else, and the world doesn't owe anybody anything.
Right.
Um, it's about truly people that you get along with, people that you can laugh with, you can joke with, you can be serious with, who understand when you say something how you're saying it. I mean, with Steve, he understands that when I say something, it's never an attack. It's never, but because he gets it. And some people who don't know me might think, "Wow, Jesus, is he attacking me?" No, it's just we know each other so well that the way we understand how it's coming across and how it's meant, and I think that's important. It's like I said, I'm a plumber out of New England. I got to be direct. I got to be straightforward, and it's just the way it always has been. It's the way I'll always be.
But that's how it has to be. And you know what? I'm with you. Like I always say, I'm misunderstood, right? Because that's how I am. I'm just, if somebody comes at me, if somebody has an attitude, or if somebody treats me or says something to me, and of course, obviously, I'm human. I'm going to like, really, like, uh, but I will lay down in traffic for anybody that is like the nicest person. You know what I mean? Like, so I understand that how sometimes it comes across, because I know there were a couple times where even like when people were like asking questions and you answered, and I was like, did I just get mad? But
But,
like,
it's
but
that's the thing. I'm not. It's when I'm mad. It's obvious when I'm mad.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm one of those people. I don't hide anger well. But I'm just also one of those people where I never want to regret not saying something.
right.
And I think that's the most important thing. Like if I see bullshit, I call bullshit. If I think that this field or this thing that somebody's doing can be easily manipulated for financial benefit to them in taking away from others, well, I'm going to call that. I mean, that's just the way it is. You're going to like me or you're going to hate me, but either way, you're going to hate me for my honesty or you're going to love me for my honesty. I think that's what it comes down to. I never want to be an ass by any means, but
Mhm.
I always want people to know at the end of the day right where I stand, and I don't want them to sit there and think, well, did he mean this or does he feel
Yeah.
that way? No, I want you to know exactly how I see things. Now, I'm not expecting you to see things the way I see things, but you want to know how I feel about something. I want you to know 100% where that is.
I wanted to ask you, only because and I'm going to use Gettysburg as an example, only because I know it so well. Um, so I know that there's been locations that I've gone to there, that I've captured EVPs, that I felt were, in my opinion, active, that they have um, torn down, to try to get it to look more like what it did in 1863, which I'm all about preserving history and I'm all about all that stuff. However, when I was there, I was getting responses and EVPs and the spirits there. Like, how do you feel about when people, or if when people, so somebody bought Cashtown Inn, they're going to turn it into an Airbnb. They're not going to open it up to the paranormal, is what I'm hearing. I don't know if that's going to stand true, but when you have places like that where the spirits or energies, whatever you want to call it, are interactive and are there and are willing to, um, participate, if you will, for lack of better description. I mean, when these places get turned down, I mean, how do you feel about that?
Well, when places get torn down that are active.
Yeah.
I mean, of course we can't change. I mean,
Right. No, no, no. I
say-
know.
and if it's an intelligent entity, it can really. I would think that it can go anywhere. It can
Right.
move on. It can go somewhere else. Yeah, of course, I hate to see a place with so much history, of course, get torn down, or so much activity get torn down. Um, but I mean, it's the way it is these days. It's funny because I mean, you head over to the UK. I mean, like when we were in Ireland. I mean, you're in places that are thousands of years old,
I know.
and in the US, it's like we got a building 50 years old. They want to tear it down, and
I
you're
know.
just like, geez, man, what the hell? But I mean, yeah, it's a shame when things like that happen, but um, and just not much you can really do about it.
I know. It stinks. So before you go, what do you have coming up? There's a couple people that mentioned Vegas.
Vegas. Oh yeah, yeah. We're gonna have a good time in Vegas. So and we're gonna be in Vegas in December. It's the Vegas Para Unity, and Sherry, Dave, Steve, me, some of I guess a bunch of the people from the uh, Ghost Hunters reboot. You're gonna have. I mean, I think everybody's gonna be out there. It's gonna be a blast. I mean, it's Dave lives out in Vegas now, so I'll be at the convention for a few days, and I'll go hang out with him for a couple of days. But we've got a lot going on, and the new episodes kick off in January. We aired the one in on Halloween, which did really well. So a lot of people were really happy to have it back. The rest were just finishing, getting edited, and all that stuff. But yeah, we've got a lot of great things coming up, and there's a lot of big news that I can't let out of the bag yet. But
Mhm.
I think it's going to be great. And I mean,
I'm,
Ghost
I'm,
Hunters.
I have
Ghost,
no
what
doubt.
was it?
As I have no doubt that it's going to be great.
And Ghost Hunters is back. I mean,
Yeah.
it's the Ghost Hunters that people remember. I think that's important, and I think people can be happy that the sincerity, the realness. I mean, this is us, and we're back doing what we love to do, and keeping it real.
It's awesome. That just is like it's just music. Music's my first.
Now,
I love
you heading out to Vegas or what?
Oh, when is that?
Penny, you heading out to Vegas? I mean,
Then he said,
yeah, Vegas. I don't know. It's but I mean, Kenny should head out to Vegas and bring his rum. I mean, let's do it.
yeah,
I can
yeah,
have
yeah.
Kenny dancing on a table somewhere.
Oh, he's like so funny. Look, he energy equals drink. I mean,
Yep. Yep.
um,
Yeah, December 9th through the 11th. That's right. So
okay.
it's going to be a good time. We're going to have a blast out there, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, I wish I could go to.
And I've started doing events again now, and I stopped doing it for years because my kids, and I mean the weekends were the boys were in football or the boys were wrestling. I mean, all three of my sons were state championship wrestlers, and so I always wanted to be there on the weekends because
Right.
that's what the wrestling competitions were. So and now they're games, but this is their last season of football. I mean they actually made it where their school hasn't made it this far in like 15 plus years, and they're in the Super Bowl first week of December, which is phenomenal. I mean, just the fact that they made it that far, they went from like the number sixth or seventh seed team to the number two. Um, and my boys are being scouted right now by colleges for football, and so
Yeah, I saw the picture you shared the other day. I was trying to respectfully say how handsome they were without being, like,
it's funny. I mean, yeah,
without
it's
being inappropriate, should I
I mean,
say?
geez, I've got one, and they're all bigger than me except for one. But I mean, you've got Austin. I mean, Connor is 6'4". You got Austin, who's 6'3", 225 pounds of muscle. You got Logan. I mean, it's just they're great. They're great kids. I have truly been blessed with phenomenal children. I mean, all my daughters. Sam's got her master's. Haley's got her bachelor's. Satori's back in school for her bachelor's. The boys are going to be going to college, and that was always the biggest concern to us when it came down
Mhm.
to being in TV was because you see too many families fall apart when it comes down to their father's a celebrity or their mother's a celebrity, and children get involved in all this craziness, and that was something we were never going to accept. So we've always told our children the two most important things are school and honesty. And all my children have been honor roll students. I've been blessed with that. They've all been great. They're extremely respectful, and like I said, I've truly been blessed. It's
Well,
I must.
it starts up at the top. You know what
Oh,
I mean?
yeah.
With
Yeah.
mom and dad.
And you
And
know what? But I've truly been blessed, and I can't say enough about them. It's phenomenal.
that's awesome. I'm so happy for you, and I'm happy for ghost hunters. Happy that I'm happy. I'm looking so forward to being able to sit down with some popcorn and watch a good show for once.
We got some phenomenal ones coming up. We really do. So make sure you stay tuned because I think you guys are gonna be really impressed with the shows. But I do. I want to say thank you to
Thank
you and
you.
happy Thanksgiving to you and
Thanks.
everybody who tuned in tonight. Greatly appreciate the support. Got to do this again.
Yes, absolutely. When you're allowed to talk about the things you weren't allowed to talk about.
All right, so we'll have to sometime in January.
Yes.
Well, you have a great night, hon.
Thank
And
you so much.
Kenny, good talking to you, man. It's a pleasure, and thanks for all the questions, everybody. Much love to you. Stay safe and have happy holidays.
Good night, Jason. Thank you so much.
Anytime. Thank you, hon. Bye.
See you. Well, thank you, everybody. I'm so sorry if I didn't get to your questions. I was really trying to just concentrate on talking. I did try to get to some of them, and but I apologize if I did not. I know there were a lot of questions, and I don't have anybody else helping me, so which I probably should have done. With him anyway. But he's so awesome, and I'm so blessed and happy that he was able to come on and share some of the things that he did, and looking forward to hanging out with him again and having him on the show again. You guys heard it. Kidding. So next week, just so you guys know, next week I have Shane Pittman coming on. So he'll be my guest next week. So hopefully you guys join me again. And I'm booked all the way into January with a lot of guests and like Shane Pittman, Duo Demonology. I have April Blusette, Robert Rigi, Ron Murphy. I have a bunch of people coming on. So I hope you guys join me. And I appreciate all the support and everybody coming on tonight. And I will catch you guys next week. Mwah. Love yous.